we will be using is to try to memorize these words. The more words in Hebrew that we know is the more we are able to understand the Hebrew Bible, and the more we will be able to translate from the Hebrew into English. Kara means he called. Number 2, Nathan means he gave. Nathan means he gave. Number 3, Ra'ah means he saw. Okay, so that was part of the tests. 3 questions out of the 5 came from the vocabulary. We're moving on now to the translation. Okay, now here is the translation, but let me start with the Hebrew. The Hebrew is here written in English letters. So you have Nathan, Shemuel, Melech, La'am. I'm reading from the right hand to the left hand. That's how the Hebrew language is read. Not like the English or the French or the Spanish and many other languages from the left-hand side to the right. So I start over here. First of all, what I want you to notice, I've already said that before in a previous lesson, is that the normal word order or the normal arrangement of words in a sentence is that you have the verb coming first, and after the verb, you have the noun. So the person who is carrying out the action expressed by the verb comes after the verb. In this case, Shemuel or Samuel. Therefore, when you are translating it into English, do not follow necessarily the order in which the words are written in the Hebrew. In other words, even though the verb Nathan comes first and the noun Shemuel comes second, it is customary in our English language to put the noun first and then to put the verb after. So the normal English word order is the noun comes first and the verb comes after. So it should not really be he gave Samuel, but it should be Samuel gave. Something else about the he. It is understood in the Hebrew that when you have the verb before the noun, in this case, you would say he gave, namely Samuel. That is literally what is happening. He gave, and then we're told who is the one who gave? Samuel. He gave, namely Samuel. Not that somebody gave something to Samuel, but that Samuel is the one who is understood by the pronoun he. So in English, we would say Samuel gave. Now, whom did Samuel give? Well, what comes after the verb in the English is normally considered to be the direct object of the verb. So this is the direct object. It is the noun Melech, and Melech means a king. So whom did Samuel give? Samuel gave a king. And now you have the indirect object here, which tells us to whom a king was given. To whom did Samuel give a king? And the inseparable preposition begins the indirect object part of the sentence. There is La'am. Now let us take this word apart and see what it means. Now this open quotation mark is really the corresponding symbol to the ayin in the Hebrew alphabet. There is no actual English letter that is equivalent to the ayin. So what is used is this, one of the opening quotation marks that is put here. And so you have ayin, and you have the, I believe this is the pathak. I might be wrong, but I think it is the pathak. So it is a, and then you have mem. So you have ayin, pathak, mem, which is in English actually, because we can't really correspond this with any particular letter. You have am, which is a noun for the word people. Am means people. Now notice what is before the am. You have lameth and you have kames. That is the long a. This is the inseparable preposition lameth, our English L. But notice there is a kames. Instead of a simple shawa under the L, there is a long a that is under the L, under the lameth. Originally, what was there is you had the simple shawa under the lameth, le, which means to or for. Then you had the definite article consisting of the he, our H, and under the he was the kames, the long a sound, the long a sound. But when the inseparable preposition is attached to the definite article, this is what happens. The he disappears. And what is left of the definite article is the kames, the long a, and it goes under the lameth to give you la. So what you have here is a combination of the inseparable preposition to and what remains of the definite article the. So this is actually to the people. It was translated here as a man, but the word man is from the Hebrew. Can anybody remind me of the Hebrew word that is translated as man?
Adam.
Adam, or our Adam, A-D-A-M or A-T-H-A-M, that means man or a man. So if it were to the man, this would not be am, but this would be atham, la atham. So it's not to the man, but it is to the people. So put them together, and this is what we get. Samuel gave a king to the people. That is what the English translation should be. Now, because you're not so familiar with translation as yet, I understand why you are doing it word by word. And so I excuse that because you're learning how to translate. But this should be translated as Samuel gave a king to the people. Nathan, Shemuel, Melech, Laam. Samuel gave a king to the people. Number 8, another translation. Nathan, Elohim, Isha, La Athan. Well, this should not be an N, but it should be an M. Okay. Apart from that, this is fine. Only that there is no translation here for La Athan. But let us begin over here and see what the translation is. Nathan is he gave. Elohim is God. Again, what you have here is the normal word order for the Hebrew language. The verb comes first, and after the verb comes the noun, the name of the person that carries out the action expressed by the verb. So it would be God gave, or literally he gave, namely God, pointing out that it is God who gave. God gave, Isha means wife. God gave a wife. Then you have la. Here you have the inseparable preposition again, just like in number 7. And underneath the inseparable preposition, if you were writing in actual Hebrew letters, you would have kames a, the long a, under the lameth, under the L, which is what is left of the definite article. So you have to, the, and atham or Adam is man. So la atham means to the man. So to put them together in English, it is God gave a wife to the man. Okay, so that is the way that we speak and write in English. The noun comes first, the verb comes after, the direct object comes after the verb, and then this is the indirect object. God gave a wife, that is the direct object, to the man, that is the indirect object. Okay, now this was basically a good response to the test. And I've done my comments up here. Number 7, la'am means to the people. La is to the, and am is people. The translation ought to have been Samuel gave a king to the people. Number 8, almost completely correct, but la'atha means to the man. The translation ought to have been God gave a wife to the man. Okay, let us look at another test paper.
Sir,
Yes, go ahead.
question, sir.
Yes,
With
go ahead. I'm listening.
with that last translation where it says God gave a wife to the man. The word Isha, right, sir?
Yes, right here. Yeah.
It
Isha
means
is. Mhm.
it means wife or woman. So I'm saying, would the translation, if you use the word woman, would it be more correct instead of wife?
Okay, the context would have to indicate which is meant, whether it is just a woman or whether it is a married woman. I put wife there because in the context of the book of Genesis, we see that God made a woman for the man and brought her to the man and joined her to the man in marriage. And Genesis chapter 2, verse 24 says, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave or shall cling to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." So the intention of making the woman was so that she would be joined to the man and become a married woman or a wife. But the translation, if you translate it as woman, well, that is okay. God gave a woman to the man. If you understand that the intention behind the making of the woman for the first man was that she would be joined to him in marriage. Now you're getting into what translators have to really think about. Sometimes when translators look at a word and it has more than one possible meaning, they have to really look at the context and see what is really the shade of meaning of this particular word that would best fit into the context of this chapter. Okay, so you're getting into the techniques of translation. When a word has more than one meaning, you will have to look closely at the context to find out which shade of meaning would fit this word the best. Okay, that is why you find in translation, different translations having different words, because there is more than one shade of meaning in these words. Any other question on this particular test paper?
No, sir.
Oh, sir.
Okay, let us look at another test paper.
Well,
Yes, go
Buckland,
ahead. Yes.
I just want to say that I'm getting a really, really difficult time with my Hebrew. I actually, and I must confess that I would try my utmost to study for it when there's a test. But apart from that, I mean, I can't even write my own name in Hebrew. And like the last set of work we did, where we had these the inseparable pronouns.
Preposition.
Yes, what I couldn't wrap my head around is that for these three pronouns, you had 8 rules, and you know, I couldn't understand that. But you know, I'm trying.
Yeah, Hebrew is a difficult language.
Yeah,
And
it's really tough.
it is not something you can really learn only in a class situation. It is something that requires personally looking over the notes and reading it over and over again. It is not something that can be really mastered only in a class setting. In fact, no language can be mastered only in a class setting. The best way is to be among the people who speak it. However, our purpose is not so much to be able to speak it, but to be able to use it to understand the Old Testament better. What you're telling me is nothing new, because I had to go through it myself. And it is not something you can learn only in an hour in a class. So when you learn a brand new lesson in a class, I know it's not going to sink in right away. It will eventually sink in when you read it at home over and over and over again. Isn't that true, Brother Solin?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and the other thing is, sometimes, you know, the videos that would accompany some of the lessons, sometimes some things are a bit different, you know.
You mean the shape of the letters?
Yeah, sometimes that, and what else? Sometimes I notice some differences in some maybe even pronunciation and so on. Yeah.
Yes, I notice it also. The pronunciation that is being given is modern Hebrew pronunciation rather than the biblical Hebrew pronunciation. And even though they're close together, you can notice the difference. And the difference in writing is that the writing that I have shared with you thus far is what I would call, it's almost like print, like the print in the book. And what that person or persons would be doing in writing the Hebrew would be like our joining up the ordinary common way in which we write, like how you're writing here. Okay, so that's why you have the difference, but it is not too different. All right, let me look at another person's paper. I'm not leaving this lesson today because I realize that it is still not fully understood, so that's why I'm staying with it. But let us look at another test that was done. Okay, I'm going to increase the size of this paper. All right, in number 1, the answer given was he created. Now, I understand why this was given, because kara almost looks like bara. There's only one difference. The kof in the Q-A-R-A kara is different from the baith in the B-A-R-A, but other than that, it looks the same. Furthermore, in the vocabulary of not the review, but in the revised, and I think in the original lesson 19 that I gave you, I think the first vocabulary that is there is the word bara, he created. I will soon go back to that review lesson and show you kara, which is he called. Kara, Q-A-R-A, is he called. Number 5, Samuel, is correct. Number 2, I have to go to the test and look at it to see what the question is there. Okay, here's the test. I'm going to look at. Okay, it's number 2 I'm going to look at now. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we have looked at kara, which is he called, Nathan, he gave, Ra'ah, he saw. Now, number 2 was translated by Brother Roy to be he came. But there is another word that is he came, and that is the word ba. Beth, Kames, A, and Aleph. Ba means he came. I will soon get back to that vocabulary. Shemuel in number 5 is also correct. But let me go back now to the test paper. Okay, number 9, from king. This is 9, the first part of 9. This is the second part of 9. So they're both 9. From king. In English, we would really say from a king. But I understand why he was just saying from king. There is actually no specific letter or word for the indefinite article in the Hebrew language, like we have in the English language. So literally what we have in the Hebrew is from king, but in translating it into the language that is spoken here, it is customary that we say from a king when we're not dealing with the definite article. If we're not dealing with the definite article, we usually say from a king. But I mark this as correct because that's a literal translation of the 2 Hebrew words. The preposition min, which is from, and the noun melech, which is king. Then the next part of number 9, from the king. So you have min again, and you have the definite article before the noun melech. Translation from the king. Okay, now we need to examine number 6. Number 6 is a problem, and I need to point out the problem. All right, so you have here 2 Samuel, by Samuel, as Samuel. Let's see what the test says. Okay, it is number 6, 2 Samuel, that is a correct translation. Li, 2, Shemuel, Samuel, that's correct. However, you had Ki Shemuel as by Samuel, and I understand why you translated it this way. Because if you're not careful, you will think that this is a beth. Does it look like a baith?
No, sir.
Not really.
Or what happens is that the baith has a sharp corner like a square on the right-hand side, but kaf is rounded on the right-hand side. But if you're not careful, it might resemble a baith. Brother Roy, did you think it was a baith?
Yes, sir. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought you thought, yes. So you translated it as, I think it was by Samuel, because baith can be translated as in, with, or by, but it is kaf, and kaf is as or like. So it is as Samuel or like Samuel, not by Samuel. Then Mish Shemuel. Mish Shemuel. So you had 2 Samuel by Samuel, and you had as Samuel here. Brother Roy, what is this preposition here, which starts with the mem, and it has the short hirik or the short I underneath it, and it causes the first letter of this noun, Shemuel, to receive a dagesh forte, which doubles the shin. So you have 2 shins. I didn't even put it here in the English. I should have 2 SHs, not 1. Mish Shemuel. What preposition is this? Do you recognize it?
Yes, sir. Min.
Min. And what does min mean?
From.
It means from. Okay, so it is from Samuel. From Samuel. Okay, any question on that?
No, sir.
Okay, let us go to another test paper. All right. Now, the only problem with this test paper is the limited knowledge concerning the vocabulary that was given. And that can easily be solved. All the questions that were answered were correct. So if the vocabulary had been known, I believe it would have been 100%. All the questions answered were answered completely correct. So number 5 in the vocabulary section, Samuel is correct. On the right side in the translation, number 6, 2, Samuel. I wouldn't translate it onto. There is a specific Hebrew preposition called el, aleph, segol, lameth, that is translated as a preposition meaning onto. But if it is just le, lameth, and simple shua underneath it, it would be to Samuel. I did not take off marks for that. To Samuel, as or like Samuel, with a kaf before Samuel, from Samuel, correct. And number 9, from a king, and from the king, correct. Okay, let us go over to that review lesson. There's some things I want to point out because I'm not going to a new lesson at this time just yet. Next week I will go on to the new lesson, but let us look over this review lesson here. Okay, this is it. Okay, so Brother Solin, this is the vocabulary that was in the review lesson.
Yes, sir.
And the first word is the word that was given in the test. Kara, Kof, Kames, Resh, Kames, Aleph. Q-A-R-A, Kara, and this apostrophe representing the letter Aleph. Kara, he called. And when Kara is followed by Lameth, Kara is translated as he named. So Kara followed by Lameth means he named. But Kara, which is not followed by Lameth, means he called. Nathan means he gave. So what we all need to do, because I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with the vocabulary, but you're going to be using this vocabulary again and again, even though we'll be moving on to new lessons. Don't forget what you have learned in previous lessons. You will still be in need of using them. So you need to try to remember these words. Nathan means he gave. Ra'ah means he saw. Halak means he went or he walked. So these are verbs. These are verbs. Kara, he called. Kara followed by Lameth, he named. Nathan, he gave. Ra'ah, he saw. Halak, he went or he walked. Now let us look at some nouns. Shamayim is a plural form of the noun and it means heavens. Shamayim means heavens. Davar means word or thing. Davar means word or thing. Still in the vocabulary, this is the word that I used in the test, one of the words, Isha. Ish by itself is man, but Isha is woman, and it also may be translated as wife. Then this one, lo, Lameth, Aleph, and before the Aleph you have the holem, the long O sound, means no or not. Now, I want you to notice when lo goes immediately before a word, it negates that word. In other words, it says that the person did not do that particular action. The person did not take that particular action. For example, Ra'ah by itself means he saw. But when you put lo before Ra'ah, it means he saw not or he did not see. Ra'ah, lo Ra'ah, he did not see or he saw not. So it means no or not. It means no or not. He saw not. Then you have the noun Shemuel, Samuel in English. Yes, I was right. In the test, Sister Hooper had translated this as man, but it is ayin pathak mem, and it means a people. Means a people. With a definite article before it, ha'am, it means the people. Then these four letters are special letters because they make up the personal name of God. This is Yoth corresponding to our Y, He corresponding to our H, Wow corresponding to our W, and He corresponding to our H. Scholars are almost in agreement that the original pronunciation of this name is Yahweh or Yahweh. In translation into English, the English translators follow the custom of the Hebrews that in about the 3rd century before Jesus was born, they were afraid that anyone would take the Lord's name in vain or misuse it. So they decided that instead of saying Yahweh, they would use the Hebrew word that is translated into English as the Lord. So that is why in our English translations, when you see capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, it is this personal name of God, Yahweh, that is being used, and it is being called the Lord to avoid using God's personal name. Actually, nothing is wrong with using God's personal name, as long as we don't misuse it or use it for an evil purpose. And these are the inseparable prepositions. Le is to or for. And I say le because you don't have any consonant or letter of the alphabet in Hebrew just being written like this. If it has no vowel underneath it, the simple shawah, one dot over the other, is to be placed underneath it. So it is le, to or for. Same thing with faith. Yes.
Yeah, before we move on, you see for Le or Lamed,
Yes.
one of the video that you have sent to us, when I watched it, they said that it is translated as tu or untu.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So that is why I used unto in my translation.
All right. Well, I never took off marks for that.
Yes,
But,
I know.
but thanks for letting me know.
Yes.
Okay, so Beth, you would also have the simple shawah underneath it. Be, meaning in, with, or by. Kaf, you would also have the simple shawah underneath it, and it would mean either as or like. And you have seen that these prepositions don't stand by themselves in a sentence. They have to be attached to a word. Okay, so they don't stand alone. They are attached, and this is why they're called inseparable. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to go to the translation. Well, hold on. I want to show something before I go to the translation. Yes, here it is. In rule number 8. Rule number 8. When the inseparable preposition is followed by the definite article, for example, to the king, which we should expect to be le ham melech, le to ham the melech king. That's what we would expect it to be. What happens is the he of the definite article falls away and gives its vowel to the preposition in this way. So we find that the he disappears. The simple shawah under the lameth also disappears, and the pathak, the short a, goes under the lameth. So this is to the king. To the king. Okay, it happened. It was placed in two questions in the test. Okay, so that's where the pathak comes from. It is what is left of the definite article. Okay, we're going to be looking at this some more. I think you need more practice in this. Let's try it again here. All right, Sister Hooper, could you translate this word? First of all, pronounce this word for us.
Uh, uh, mm, is it mel 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 melek or mel
Okay, you're correct. It's melek. Melek.
melek?
Okay, and what does it mean? What is it translated into English as?
Um, king?
That's correct. Okay, let me give you a little break. Brother Roy, pronounce this word for me.
Lemelek.
Correct. So how would you translate this for us into English?
To a king.
To a king, correct. Okay, Brother Solin, how would you pronounce this word here?
Bimelek.
Okay, and what would you translate it into English as?
A king.
Okay, now notice that the noon or the N in min has disappeared. That's what happens when the min is attached to a noun and becomes inseparable. The min can stand apart by itself, but there are times when it joins itself to a noun and becomes part of the noun. And when that happens, the noon or the N disappears, and to compensate for the disappearance of the noon, the first letter of the noun receives a dagesh forte, which causes the letter to be doubled. So this is mim melek, from a king. Okay, Sister Hooper, I'd like you to pronounce this for us. Just this word here. Okay, let us break it up into simple parts. Pronounce this part of it for me, just this part.
La.
Correct. So you have la.
La.
Okay, and now I think you already know what this other part of the word is. So pronounce this part of the word for me.
Okay, so it's melek. Melek.
Melek. So say the whole word now.
La melek.
Correct. Lam melek. You did it correctly because the first letter is doubled. So you have lam melek. Now translate that for us.
That would be as a king. No.
Repeat that for me. I didn't hear so well.
Is it as a, no, not as a king?
Okay. The lameth as a preposition means what?
To the king.
Okay, that's correct. It means to the king. If it had kam melek, it would be as the king. The pathak under the lameth is what is left of the definite article. So it is to the king. Okay, now here is a case in which the min stands by itself. Okay, Brother Roy, can you translate what is left in number 1? Trying to get the pointer. It's min, then you have makef, which is binding or joining or connecting min, to the definite article ha, and to the noun melek. So there you have a case of the min standing by itself and not attached to the definite article nor to the noun, but just joined to it by the makef. How would you translate min hamelek?
So min is from, sir.
Yes,
And from the king.
that's correct. Min is from, ha is the, and melek is king. So it's from the king. Okay, I'll soon come to you, so Brother Solin. Sister Hooper,
Yes, sir.
number 2. How would you translate that first word there?
Well, that would be um, uh, uh, us. Mhm. Us. That would be uh, uh,
You see why it can't be done just in class time? Can't be done just in class time. It takes a while to really understand it well enough. Yeah, that first word, you started out correctly. You said ah. Would you like to finish it up for us?
that would be
Okay, let me ask Brother Solin to help you out here. Brother Solin, how would you pronounce that first word there?
Number 2,
Yeah, that first word in number 2.
Atam or Adam.
Atham,
Atham.
okay. Atham, good.
Atham.
And how would you translate it into English?
Aman.
A man, correct. Correct. Okay, so Brother Solin, still with you now.
Yes, sir.
How would you translate ke atham?
As a man.
All right, ke is as, and atham again is man. So as a man. Now, how would you translate this one? Me atham. Me sorry, me atham.
From a man.
Okay. Would you like to explain what happened here? How come we have 2 dots here, side by side, instead of 1 dot under the mem? What happened here?
All right, sir. As we have said already, oftenly the letter nun from min is joined to the other word of the vocabulary. So when it joins the other now, I believe it compensates, and that is why we have the is that a bridle?
Yeah, that's a bridle.
Yes, sir.
Called in Hebrew method.
Yes, sir. I think that's the explanation that I can recall.
Yeah, so it's originally min, mem, hirik, nun, M-I-N. And when min is joined to a noun, we see that some changes happen. The nun or the n disappears, And to compensate or to make up for the loss of the N or the noon, the first letter of the noun to which min is joined would normally have to be doubled to compensate for the loss of the noon. But why can't this happen in the case of this first letter? It cannot be doubled because it is a guttural letter. Guttural letters cannot be doubled. And since it cannot be doubled, something else has to be done to compensate for this. And so the short hirik, or the short I that was here originally, has to be lengthened to sire. So instead of short I, you have long E. And this is why you have may, the metheg, meaning that you're to pause. There is a bridle to hold you back from moving any further. And then you continue to pronounce the word, the rest of the word, atham. May atham, from a man. Okay, Brother Solin, still with you. This is ha, and you have metheg or a bridle or a pause right here again. Ha, atham. Translate that for us into English.
This means the man.
Okay, that's correct. Ha is the, and atham is man. Brother Solin, still with you?
Yes, sir.
Ha, atham. Translate that for us into English.
This is as the man.
Correct. So here you have kaf, which is as.
Yes, sir.
The definite article that was here originally has partly disappeared. The he or the h that was over the kames, the long a, has disappeared, and it moves under the kaf. So instead of a simple shua under the kaf, you have what is left of the definite article, the kames, underneath it. So that's why you said as the man.
Yes,
correct.
Sir.
Okay, let's do about two more. I'll soon move the page and see if I can find some more difficult ones. So Brother Solin, still with you. Translate this for us. Min, and this is makef, joining min to the definite article and to the noun atham. Yes, min ha atham.
From the man.
From the man. Okay. Oh, let's try this one here. Sister Hooper, come back to you now. Could you translate this? This is koshek. It is a noun that means darkness, and this is the definite article. Pronounce it first and then translate it for us. Okay, I think I heard the sound ha. That's a definite article, the. And pronounce this word for us. Oh, I need to point out to you. You see this dot over the right side of the letter shin? It has joined with another dot. Because when you have a dot over this letter, and there is another dot that should be right here, the grammar says that it should join together, so it forms one dot. So there's actually a holem, or a long O right here. So this is keth. So it has a CH sound, a hard CH sound. Pronounce that for us, this part of the noun, this part of the word.
Kesh.
Okay, it would be ko, because it is CHO. This is CH, and it's a hard CH like in Christ or choir or chorus. So it'd be ko, and this would be This is an SH sound. The
Yes.
shin is the SH sound. So this would be ko, sh,
Kosh.
kosh. And this is segol. It has an S sound, short E. Koshe. And this is kaf, which has a KH or CH sound, hard CH sound. This is the way it looks at the end of a word. So it's ko-shek, ko-shek. So ha-koshek. What does that mean?
Before
What does-
giving the meaning, sir. In that case, doesn't the olem join with the dot of the
Shin.
shin?
Yes, it does. It consistently does that. When you have a holem
Yes, sir.
and you have another letter following the holem that has a dot right there where the shin is, it will join together and form one dot. So it does that with different words. For example, it does that with Moses. The Hebrew word for Moses is Moshe. So you have mem, then you have the holem, the dot over on the left side of mem. You have shin with the dot on the right side of the letter, and the dot on the right side of the letter joins with the holem on the left side of mem to form one dot. So you have Moshe.
Yes, sir.
All right, so ha-koshek is the pronunciation, and it means the darkness. Let's
Yes.
move on. We're almost finished. Now let's try this one. Translate this for me. I will pronounce it la koshek, la koshek. What does that mean in English?
Me, sir?
Sister Hooper,
From
la koshek. What does that mean?
from the darkness,
Or what does the preposition le mean? The inseparable preposition le. It means two.
two.
This
Okay.
pathak is what is left of the definite article. So you have to the darkness.
To the darkness.
Similar thing here. You have kaf, which is as. You have what is left of the definite article here, the pathak, as the darkness. Okay. So what I would advise all of you to do is to look over this lesson, the review. You had it sent already. Look and see if you can find the lesson entitled Review of Lesson 19. That's how it starts, Review of Lesson 19. And go through it again. As I said, you can't learn it just in an hour in a class. You have to look at it and try to understand it. And I speak from personal experience, having gone through this. Okay, that's the way you will be able to catch on to it, to really understand it. All right, so this was an exercise in the use of inseparable prepositions with nouns. Next week, we will look at lesson 20. We will look at the differences between masculine nouns and feminine nouns, and the difference between masculine adjectives and feminine adjectives. So it is lesson number 20, part 1, entitled Nouns and Adjectives. Any question before we go?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So take care and God bless you all.
All right.
Have a good weekend, sir.
You too, sir.
Yes. Thank you.